Imagine the largest warship America had ever built, 1,063 feet long, 78,000 tons, 27 fully armed aircraft packed onto its flight deck, engines running, pilots strapped in, ready to launch the second strike of the day against targets in North Vietnam. Winds of 32 knots sweeping across the deck, sailors moving between the aircraft in the tight space between fuselages and wings, doing the job they had done every day for 4 days without incident. At 10:50 in the morning, a single rocket fired accidentally from an F-4 Phantom. It crossed the flight deck in less than a second. It struck a fuel tank on an A-4 Skyhawk waiting to launch. Hundreds of gallons of jet fuel flooded the deck and ignited. 1 minute and 34 seconds later, a 1,000-pound bomb exploded. In the 90 seconds between the rocket firing and that first bomb detonation, Damage Control Team 8 had already reached the fire and was fighting it. Chief Gerald Ferrier had pulled the safety pin from a PKP extinguisher and was directing his team when the bomb went off. Chief Ferrier and all but 3 of his men were killed instantly. The survivors were critically injured. The fire then spread to the next aircraft, then the next. 8 more bombs cooked off in sequence. The chain reaction blew 9 holes in the armored flight deck. It killed 134 sailors and injured 161 more. It destroyed 21 aircraft and damaged 40 others. The fires burned for 17 hours, and the reason the bombs killed so many people, the reason the chain reaction was so catastrophic, was that those bombs should never have been on that deck at all. This is the story of USS Forrestal, and by the end of this video, you will understand why the deadliest accident in U.S. Navy carrier history was not caused by enemy fire, not caused by a design flaw, and not caused by crew error. It was caused by a supply problem, and by a decision made under pressure that put obsolete World War II weapons on the deck of the most advanced carrier America had ever built. Stay with me, because the detail that caused everything is the one that almost nobody talks about. The USS Forrestal was not destroyed by the fire of July 29, 1967. She survived. She was repaired. She served until 1993. She was not attacked by the enemy. Not a single North Vietnamese aircraft or missile reached her that morning. She was not lost because of negligence, cowardice, or incompetence. Her crew fought one of the most savage shipboard fires in naval history for 17 hours. Many of them died doing it. She nearly sank because the Navy had run out of modern bombs and replaced them with ones that were never designed to survive a fire. To understand why, you have to go back to the summer of 1967 and the specific supply crisis that nobody in Washington wanted to talk about. By mid-1967, the naval air campaign against North Vietnam, Operation Rolling Thunder, was consuming general-purpose bombs at a rate the American military had not anticipated and could not easily sustain. The demand for 1,000-pound bombs at Yankee Station, the carrier operating area in the Gulf of Tonkin, was running ahead of the supply chain. The solution the Navy reached for was the one sitting in storage facilities across the Pacific, stockpiles of AN-M65 1,000-pound bombs left over from World War II. These bombs had been manufactured in the 1940s. They had been stored for 2 decades in conditions that were not always ideal. They were not the modern Mark 83 and Mark 84 bombs that the Navy's newer aircraft had been designed to carry, but they were available, and they were bombs. In the days before July 29, 1967, supplies of these old World War II bombs were transferred to Forrestal from other ships to replenish her depleted magazines. Her ordnance crews loaded them onto aircraft. Her pilots prepared to drop them on targets in North Vietnam. Here is the detail that changes everything about what happened next. The AN-M65 bombs from World War II had a fundamental characteristic that made them extraordinarily dangerous on a flight deck that was on fire. They were thin-skinned. Their casings were not designed to resist heat. When exposed to the jet fuel fire burning on Forrestal's deck, they heated rapidly. The time between fire exposure and detonation, what ordnance specialists call cook-off time, was dramatically shorter than for modern weapons. Modern bombs are designed with insensitive high explosives that resist cook-off for minutes, giving fire crews time to cool them down or jettison them over the side. The World War II bombs on Forrestal's deck cooked off in approximately 90 seconds. There was no time to cool them. There was no time to move them. There was barely time to run. When the first bomb exploded 1 minute and 34 seconds after the fire started, the firefighters who had reached the aircraft were in the kill radius. Chief Ferrier and most of his team died in that first detonation. With the fire suppression team gone, the fire spread to the next aircraft. Then the next bomb cooked off, then the next aircraft. The chain reaction that the Navy's damage control procedures were designed to prevent could not be stopped because the people trained to stop it were already dead. If you are finding this as fascinating as I am, go ahead and hit the like button. It helps more people find this channel. The next part of this story is the one that changes how you understand everything that came before. Here is where it gets genuinely strange. The pilot sitting in the A-4 Skyhawk that was struck by the Zuni rocket, the aircraft whose fuel tank ignited and started everything, was a 31-year-old Navy lieutenant commander named John Sidney McCain III. McCain had been sitting in his cockpit, fully fueled and bomb-laden, waiting to launch. When the rocket struck his aircraft and the fuel ignited, he climbed out onto the nose of the plane and crawled forward along the fuselage to escape the flames. He jumped from the nose to the flight deck. He was running toward another burning aircraft to help the pilot escape when the first bomb detonated. The explosion threw him backward. Shrapnel hit him in the chest and legs. McCain survived. He was treated for his wounds and offered immediate transfer off the ship. He declined. He stayed aboard Forrestal for several more days before eventually transferring to USS Forrestal. 3 months later, on October 26, 1967, his A-4 was shot down over Hanoi. He was captured by North Vietnamese forces and held as a prisoner of war for 5.5 years. The pilot who survived the Forrestal fire went on to spend 5.5 years in a North Vietnamese prison camp. He was elected to the United States Senate from Arizona in 1986 and served until his death in 2018. In the accounting of everything that happened to John McCain in his life, the Forrestal fire is often the part that gets the least attention. It killed 134 of the men around him. He walked away from it with shrapnel wounds and went looking for another aircraft to fly. The aftermath of July 29, 1967, changed how the United States Navy fights fires permanently. Before Forrestal, Navy firefighting training was general. Sailors received instruction in basic fire suppression, but there was no dedicated carrier firefighting program, no specialized school, and no systematic approach to the specific hazards of a fully armed and fueled flight deck. After Forrestal, everything changed. The Navy established the Ferrier Firefighting School at Naval Station Norfolk, named after Chief Gerald Ferrier, the damage control team leader who died in the first bomb detonation. The school trained dedicated flight deck firefighting teams in the specific techniques required to suppress carrier flight deck fires before bombs cooked off. Every carrier in the fleet was fitted with a deck washdown system that could flood the flight deck with water in seconds, cooling ordnance and suppressing fuel fires simultaneously. The Navy also rewrote its ordnance handling procedures. The World War II bombs that had been shipped to Forrestal to fill the supply gap were removed from the inventory. The requirement for insensitive munitions became a formal Navy standard. Insensitive munitions are weapons with explosive formulations that resist cook-off under heat exposure. The Forrestal fire is directly cited as the origin of the American military's insensitive munitions program, which has saved an unknown but certainly large number of lives in every conflict since. In 2021, the Navy established the Chief Petty Officer Gerald Ferrier Award, given annually to the Navy's outstanding damage controlman. It is named after the man who ran toward the burning aircraft and was killed when the first bomb went off because the bomb cooked off too fast for anything he did to matter. Here is what the USS Forrestal fire actually was when you strip away 5 decades of incomplete accounts and look at the record plainly. It was not a combat loss. It was not a design failure. It was not caused by the enemy, by crew error, or by any failure of the ship herself. It was caused by a supply chain decision made under operational pressure. The decision to load old, thin-skinned World War II bombs onto a modern carrier because the modern bombs had run out. One Zuni rocket fired accidentally. 90 seconds of fire. One bomb cooked off. The firefighters who could have stopped the chain reaction were killed in that first detonation. 8 more bombs followed. 134 men died. The Navy spent 2 years investigating and then rewrote every procedure it had for handling ordnance on carrier flight decks. USS Forrestal was repaired, returned to service, and served for 26 more years. She was nicknamed USS Zippo, a lighter, by the sailors who served aboard her after the fire. She was offered for preservation as a museum ship. The funding was never found. She was scrapped in Brownsville, Texas in 2014. The school that teaches Navy sailors how to fight carrier flight deck fires is named after the man who died in the first explosion. The procedures he lacked when he died are now standard on every carrier in the fleet. What surprised you most about the Forrestal? Drop it in the comments. I read every one. Thanks for watching. If you want the real stories behind the decisions, failures, and unexpected turns that shaped the most famous warships ever built, subscribe. New video every week, and the next one is already stranger than you would expect.